Alright, today I'm going to give you the lifting, diet, and sleep habits that have built me 20 pounds of muscle. So, if you want to get jacked, if you want to feel amazing, you're going to want to listen to each of these three categories. First things first, you're going to want to lift 3 to 4 times per week. Okay? You're not going to want to lift 6 times a week, taking no rest days, no recovery. Less is more when it comes to lifting, alright? You're going to want to lift heavy. A lot of people seem to like doing lightweight for some reason, but you're going to want to train heavy, which means in the 6 to 10 rep range, because that is where you build strength and muscle and where you stimulate testosterone, growth hormone. That's the best rep range, alright? Heavy weight. And then the secret to muscle growth is to progress, alright? Progress. Progressive overload is everything. You need to be adding weight over time to your lifts. That's how you build muscle. The reason I have big arms is because I've added weight to tricep dips and bicep curls. And the reason I have a big chest is because I have added weight to bench press, incline bench, the heavy lifts, alright? The heavy compounds are everything. So you're lifting 3 to 4 times a week, follow a PPL split, push-pull legs, you know what that is, right? It's the classic. Focus on the compounds on each of those days. And don't go crazy, right? Limit yourself to probably 12 sets per workout. That can give you, 6 exercises, 2 sets each. It's very simple, all right? Just train slowly, slower reps, high intensity, and you don't have to do as many sets. You can spend less time in the gym and you just get more muscle growth because you're training with intensity. You're training heavy, okay? 3 to 4 times a week. That means every other day. Every other day. You're not lifting 2 days in a row, basically ever, okay? Now, on the days where you're not lifting, that doesn't mean you sit around on your ass, right? Go do something physical. Go do calisthenics or a sport or some skill that you've wanted to learn. You now have time for that, right? You're not lifting 6 times a week. You have free days to, pursue something else. You're also not going to want to do any intense cardio. No runs, no, difficult endurance training, any of that. You're going to want to walk, okay? Walking is the best form of exercise, the best form of cardio, because it doesn't raise your cortisol, your stress hormone, like running does, and it doesn't burn the energy, the glycogen that your body needs for your lifts and your muscle growth. It's just going to be way, way better. You're going to get all the benefits of exercise without any of the downsides of high-intensity cardio, which a lot of people seem to just run without any idea of the downsides of doing that. And I used to do that all the time, and it's just not optimal, all right? So heavy lifts 3 to 4 times a week with a push-pull leg split. You're going to do heavy compound movements, 6 to 10 rep range, add weight when you get to the top of that rep range, and then on your free days, do some other activities, and walk every day, all right? Walk several hours every day. That's lifting and exercise, basically. Next thing, diet, okay? Diet is very, very simple. You will hear a lot of conflicting information about diet. I've heard a lot of it, especially when I'm trying to build muscle and trying to figure out what foods are good for me. It turns out that the best foods to eat for muscle growth are meat, especially red meat, eggs, fruit, and honey, okay? These are your 4 best friends now. For muscle growth, for feeling amazing every day, you're going to want to eat these 4 foods. Tons and tons and tons of these foods. Meat and eggs are your protein and fat sources. They have all your micronutrients. They have cholesterol to boost your testosterone. And fruit and honey are your clean carb sources, so they can power your physical activity, your lifts, all the stuff you're doing. Fruit and honey are also easy calories, so if you're trying to bulk, if you want to add weight, add mass, make sure to up the carbs because they're easy to get in, right? Meat and eggs, the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, so they're the best for muscle growth. You don't want to be eating any ultra-processed food, all right? If anyone tells you to dirty bulk, disregard that. immediately, okay? Because you never want to be eating any ultra-processed food. It's going to do so much harm, and it's definitely the worst way to go about building muscle, and you'll just feel like shit, basically. So that's diet. It's very, very simple. You're just eating these four foods, okay? People like to overcomplicate it. It's very, very simple. Nutrient dense, protein and fat sources, and clean carbs, all right? When it comes to sleep, this is probably the most important area for building muscle, because muscle growth, it started in the gym, but it's basically finished in bed. Sleep does everything for muscle growth. You're going to want to sleep the same 10 hours every night. You might say, oh, I don't need 10 hours. I need 8 hours of sleep. Well, it turns out when you go to bed, you are not spending the same amount of time in bed that you are spending asleep. Some of the time you spend in bed is time spent awake. It's, not accounted for by a lot of people. They think, oh, I went to bed at 10 and woke up at 6, that's 8 hours of sleep. That is not 8 hours of sleep. That is maybe 7, right? Your sleep efficiency has to be accounted for. So you're going to want to spend 10 hours in bed to get, a guaranteed 8 hours of sleep, and maybe eventually, if you're consistent with it, you get 9.5 hours in that 10-hour window. And sleep consistency is everything, right? Make sure it's the same 10 hours every night. I would also like to emphasize pre-midnight deep sleep. Alright? Not a lot of people know about this. They think they can go to bed at any time of the night, at 1 a.m. every night, and still build muscle. You can't, okay? You need to go to bed 10 p.m. at the latest, alright? Because before midnight is when your body releases testosterone, when it repairs your brain, when it repairs your muscles, when it makes your muscles grow, is before midnight during this deep sleep that you can't get any other time of night. So if you're sleeping at 1 a.m. and you still think you're getting 8 hours because you're sleeping in, you need to sleep earlier, okay? You need to go to bed earlier, and you need to spend the same 10 hours in bed every night. This sentence right here, this alone is going to boost your muscle growth and just make you feel insane every day, all right? So, it's very, very simple, right? Muscle growth is not complicated. People like to overcomplicate it, but once you follow these 3 areas, not only are you going to build the most muscle of your life, but you're also just going to feel amazing, okay? Because for me, that's my 2 goals, is to feel amazing and to build muscle, to get stronger, bigger, and better, all right? So these 3 areas, lock in on your lifts, lock in on your diet, fix your sleep, and the muscle will just skyrocket, all right? The muscle growth will skyrocket. So do those 2 things. Thanks for watching.